Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 182 of this show. And before we get started, I'm going to do a house cleaning quick because, well, let's just be honest here. That's what we like to do around here, and it only makes sense that we do it. So let's just get on with the house cleaning. I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly keep taking time in your days to download these episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly keep letting me know how you feel, whether you like my stupid face or not, which obviously you're not seeing my stupid face right now because, well, we're back to doing a little bit of audio version due to some technical difficulties. But I do thank you guys for coming back and listening. It really does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly keep, making time to listen to these episodes, to constantly let me know how you feel, because I honestly can't do any of this without you guys, and I just greatly appreciate the love and support. It really does mean a lot to me. I do want to say thank you guys for the total downloads, especially because we're almost pushing 2,600 total. So let's hopefully get over 2,600. And my goal is that I want to be at 3,000 by the end of the year, or at least before the 3-year anniversary of the show. So we're making good progress. We're almost there. And I just greatly appreciate that. I also greatly appreciate the Patreon backers. You guys are wonderful. And in regards to the Patreon backers, I've decided to do something a little bit, not new, but at least roll back on something where we're going to primarily stick to one tier, the $2 tier, where you can donate $2 a month and you get early access to the episodes and everything like that. So that's what we're going to do for right now, is sticking with the $2 tier, and just a way to support the show. Only $2 a month. If you want to become a Patreon backer, we have the links down below, whether you're listening to the audio version or watching this on YouTube. But with all of that out of the way, let's get on with today's topic, because this is something that's been sparking a lot of debate in the gaming community right now. Primarily, well, we're going to be talking about Halo Infinite. And yes, I've seen and heard both sides of the argument. I've seen how some people can be very upset with this, that they're just throwing 343 under the bus. There's some people that are just, full-blown Xbox apologists and just going all in and be like, well, defend 343. And I'm being honest with you guys. I land somewhere more in the middle when it comes to this. But I do want to emphasize 3 main talking points in this entire episode that we're going to be focusing on. The first talking point is obviously the elephant in the room, and it's the effects of the pandemic. Yes, let's be honest here, guys. We understand that this game has been in development for years. However, we cannot pretend that the impacts of the pandemic have not affected a lot of things regarding how game development has been done, especially for, even games that have been in development for a while. The pandemic has changed a lot of things, because we're not going to pretend that we're all game developers and that, we know more than the actual people working on the game itself. I'm like, first off, get your head out of your ass. You don't know more than them. So stop pretending that you do, and stop pretending like you're some genius when it comes to programming or game designing, because you're not. Just get off your high horse and reel your ego in, buckos. But we do need to understand that yes, the pandemic has affected many things, and we've seen this. We're not going to pretend that the effects of working at home, and especially in terms of a studio as big as 343 Industries, yes, splitting the team up, working from home is not a very difficult, or I wouldn't say it's not a very easy thing to just manage, because everybody has their own responsibilities. A lot of teams have to collaborate and find new ways to, collaborate, and also, continue to do what they're doing, which is working on their projects, which in this case was Halo Infinite. Because yes, let's be real here. Halo Infinite was supposed to launch with the Xbox Series X and Series S last year. It was supposed to, but then it got delayed a whole extra year. And I do believe that that was the right call. Let's be real here. It really was the right call, and best, it was the best choice that they could make given the state of the game, of where it was at, and given that there were changes going on. Now, this isn't saying that the pandemic is the biggest, that, hey, we can just defend, the whole issue going on right now with 343, which, let's lay it out for you. The whole issue is that an interview had recently come out and they had talked about Halo Infinite, and it was mentioned that Halo Infinite will not launch with co-op campaign and Forge. Both of these things have been staples for the Halo franchise. Even though, yes, Forge has only been available since Halo 3, it's still, a very big deal. And so we need to understand that, yes, these are core features that people like. Obviously, co-op campaign is a very big thing because, let's be honest, co-op campaign is a very big feature that people really like about Halo, and it's just fun. But I can also understand from the perspective of how, yes, things have changed with the game. It's definitely not the same game that we were going to get last year if the game had launched. And some people have talked about this, that they feel a little bit concerned, which a lot of these topics that we're talking about here right now bleeds into the second point, but it should be addressed right now. That yes, the game that we presumably, if the game had launched last year, it would have been a completely different game than what we got right now. Obviously, in terms of Halo Infinite, yes, we've seen the progress that 343 has made in regards to the multiplayer. People have gotten to test it. They like it. A lot of people really enjoyed the multiplayer. And the campaign, from the little snippets of the updates that we got, it definitely looks really good as well. Is it, now granted, it's a bit concerning we haven't seen more of the campaign, but I think that will be more revealed as time goes on, especially since that's the big, bread and butter of the whole thing is the campaign. Let's just be real here. But I do see how the pandemic has affected many things, and maybe there was more damage done that we're just not aware of, because something that has been brewing in regards to 343 Industries is, yes, people have said, oh, they're poor mismanagement of, their talent, their teams. And I'm like, guys, we don't know what's going on there. Yes, I get it. We can make assumptions. We can think what we know is going on. But if we don't really know what's going on, I would not go on a limb and say that what I think is going on is what's actually going on, because, guys, we could be horribly wrong about this entire situation and we're just going to look stupid. But we're primarily going to focus on the co-op campaign and the Forge not coming, which does suck. And obviously in the interview, they also mentioned the whole thing of the game being a live service, which we understand that Halo Infinite will be a live service game, which perfectly leads into the second point, which is the expectations for this game. The expectations for this game are extremely high. Like, the Halo franchise is not just an important IP for Microsoft. It is literally, I really like how another YouTuber had mentioned this, that the Halo IP, the Halo identity, when you see Halo, it's not just a franchise. It is literally a brand. Halo literally built Xbox. Like, the first Halo was one of the most iconic games ever made. Halo 3, arguably considered the greatest Halo game ever made, and arguably one of the greatest video games of all time. Obviously, the debate between Halo 2 and 3 is very big. And then after Halo Reach and ODST, yes, things definitely fell off. Halo 4, I have been more partial towards Halo 4 as time has gone on, especially with the re-release on PC with the Master Chief Collection. It's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Is it perfect? No. But is it as bad as, say, Halo 5? Also, no. Halo 5 definitely is the sour spot that everyone always talks about, because, yes, the campaign it just wasn't good. Let's just be real here. A lot of us didn't agree with a lot of the creative decisions that they decided to make in the campaign. And then the multiplayer, well, I do agree, was pretty fun. It was also pay to win. So it just really wasn't the best. Now, we have Halo Infinite. At first, yes, we saw the trailer, the initial trailer for the game. Everyone was like, oh, like, Halo is back, baby, let's go. And then we saw the gameplay, and then everyone was like, this game looks like crap. It looks like a PS2 game. And then people weren't happy. And then obviously Craig, the infamous Craig, decides to make an appearance. And the game gets delayed because they realize, hey, this game needs more polish. And then in the process of the year delay, they obviously hire a new creative director, which has led to a lot of people being concerned, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, is the game was revamp time, but they decided to hire a new creative director to come in and work on the story, which, given that they had a year to do all that stuff, which makes people a lot of, iffy when it comes to the campaign specifically, especially because we haven't seen much of the campaign. But we have to be honest here that the expectations for the campaign are extremely high, especially because after Halo 5, Halo fans definitely want a return to form, but also something new that points us in the direction of where Halo is going for the foreseeable future. Yes, we can sit here and say the expectations, the multiplayer looks great. We already have a taste for that. The campaign is the biggest thing that everyone really cares about. Now, the expectations that we have for this game are now a little bit in jeopardy, given the fact that these core features will not be available at launch. Like co-op campaign, people are like, okay, at this point, they're going to make us pay $60 for just the campaign because multiplayer is free, so we don't have to pay for it. And this is also implying that the co-op campaign and then also Forge will be added later as free DLC, like in part of the whole seasons pass thing to add, since it is a live service game. It's like, oh, season 2, guess what, guys, we have co-op campaign. Season 3, hey guys, we added Forge. And I get that. I really do get that. To me, it's just very worrisome. Like, to me, it does waver my confidence a bit when it comes to the game. Am I still going to buy Halo Infinite when it comes out? Yes, because I'm extremely excited for this game. The multiplayer looks great. I was sad that I didn't get a chance to play it, but from what I saw, I really enjoyed what I saw. And I think it's a very solid game in terms of multiplayer. Obviously they're going to do more polish for it. Let's just be real here. We know they will. The campaign is the biggest thing, though. I love the Halo campaigns. Me and my friend, we literally went through and did all the Halo campaigns on Legendary, which Halo 2's is still a nightmare. And even Halo C on some levels with Legendary does get a bit annoying sometimes. I'm just being honest with you. But the expectations for this game is extremely high. And I don't blame Halo fans for being upset that these core features that they've come to love and enjoy with the Halo series, or, I would say synonymous with Halo, will not be there at launch is very disheartening. It's very discouraging. But we also have to understand, primarily, let's talk about Forge. Somebody had mentioned this, and I really do agree with this, that Forge is not the same that it was, say, in Halo 3, Halo 4, Halo Reach. It's not the same beast, especially with Halo 5, given the updated graphics, the different environments. It definitely became a much different beast. And now that we're talking about an open world Halo, the first time that Halo has ever gone at least to, semi-open world to open world, the fact that we have something new being added to the formula definitely makes things a bit weirder. And it doesn't surprise me that Forge probably needs a little bit more time to adjust, given this new shift in the landscape of what Halo games should be. And I think that's very important to keep in mind when we're having this discussion, because Forge will not be the same thing, because I get it. People talk about that Forge is the lifeblood and the creativity of the Halo community, that so many people's favorite game modes were originally Forge game modes, like Griffball or Fiesta. A lot of these game modes that people find very enjoyable, very fun, were originally Forge game modes that people made up. But it's different now. Halo Infinite is a different game. It is not the same as every other Halo game that has come before. Does it take inspiration from past Halo games? Yes. But it also adds something new that we should also acknowledge, that it's not the same. We can't expect it to be the same, because Forge, let's be honest here, definitely needed a revamp. They needed to do something a little bit more than just a simple sandbox editor. I think what they're probably going to do with it, based on what I'm predicting, is that yes, we will see a drastic change to Forge, and it will be a much different beast than what it was before. And I think that's actually for the better, because it actually gives consumers more options. As if we really think about it in terms of creativity, you'd rather have more options for creativity than just limiting what you can do, if that makes any sense, to be honest. But the co-op campaign, though, to me, I can understand how it seems kind of backwards thinking to not have co-op campaign, especially when you're talking about the biggest Halo story, possibly made. We're talking about open world. It's a new adventure. The fact that it makes more sense that it should have been co-op from the get-go, I think that would have been a very smart idea to keep the co-op in. But I can also understand that given the change in directions with the creative director, that things were probably changed. And there's some things that they had to go back and they're like, hey, adding co-op campaign, we can do it. It just will be very buggy. And I understand like some people want to avoid a Cyberpunk 2077 mistake, which do I blame them for wanting to avoid that situation? Absolutely, because let's be real, Cyberpunk 2077 was the biggest flop of the modern era of gaming because it just was so bad, so buggy. The game should have not launched. Let's just be real. It was not ready for prime time, nowhere even close to ready for prime time. So I don't blame 343 for wanting to avoid that situation and the bad press that comes with that, because I'd rather not, like, if I'm talking about like myself and if I was in that situation, I would not want to be grilled for having to deal with that, if I'm just being honest with you. But my last point that I want to talk about is I'd say it's more of a hope point. It's just talking about hope for the better. And that's really all we can do in this kind of situation. Is I get it. People's trust in 343 has not been the best. Their track record has not been the best, especially, with Halo 4, Halo 5, the Master Chief Collection, and how, like, let's be real. I remember the Master Chief Collection when it first came out. It was an absolute buggy nightmare. I regretted playing, and I was like, this is literally a buggy mess. Granted, I do appreciate that 343 took the time, went in and actually fixed it and actually made it a good, compelling game. Like, it's actually really good to own. And I highly recommend it if you're, a Halo fan. The Master Chief Collection should be in your collection. How ironic. And yes, Halo 5 is not the best Halo ever made. Is it the worst game ever made? Also no, because the multiplayer did get better over time as things were updated and added in. And I think that's really all we can do with Halo Infinite is, yes, my confidence in 343 is not the highest. I'm just being honest with you. But I would still give them the benefit of the doubt and let them actually release the product before we pass judgment, because I don't think it's smart to pass judgment on a product that hasn't even come out yet, given the fact that none of us have genuinely played the campaign. And who knows, the campaign could, for all intents and purposes, be 10 out of 10, the greatest Halo campaign ever made, or it could probably be the worst Halo game ever made, or probably the worst video game campaign ever made. It could probably be the worst game ever made. Or it could be a Game of the Year nominee. Like right now, Psychonauts 2, at the time of this recording, is arguably considered in the running for Game of the Year in terms of an Xbox exclusive because of how good it was, that it generally was a good game. And Forza Horizon 5, when that comes out, I won't be surprised if that ends up being nominated for Racing Game of the Year, which is probably going to win that award pretty easily because let's be honest, it's just Forza's always been good. But in my opinion, I don't think it's fair to pass super critical judgment on 343. Yes, do I believe that these decisions are very weird and they're not appreciated, but I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt. Let it breathe a little bit. Give it some time, give it some space. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see how the game actually is when it comes out, because I get it. Some people are calling for an extra delay for another year. I don't think they can afford that, given the fact that that means that Halo would miss 2 holiday cycles, which, to be honest, would be extremely devastating in terms of the studio, because you're missing 2 of the biggest times to sell your game. Because think about it, they missed the launch of the console. That was already a big oof to begin with. I don't think they want to miss another one. Like, from what I've seen so far, the game does look good. I do believe we need to see more of the campaign. I think if we see more of the campaign, it might alleviate some concerns, some stress that people have about it. But I do understand that if you're in the camp that co-op campaign not being there really bothers you, or Forza not being there from the launch either bothers you, you're perfectly justified. It should bother you because it's features that you want and it's being cut out and being released for a later time. Now, do I think that they're being genuine when they say that it's being polished and that they want it to be better? Yes, I genuinely believe, personally, I do believe that they're polishing it, that they want this game to be the best that it possibly can be, especially, let's be honest, I know we keep going back to Cyberpunk, but it's the most relevant example is you don't want to pull another Cyberpunk. You do not want to be in the same position that CD Projekt Red is with Cyberpunk, that it just was a complete nightmare. And now look at it. The game literally can be found on sale for $10. The game that they were working on for years, for absolute years, is now on sale for $10. But in my opinion, am I bummed out that co-op campaign in Forge will not be there? Yes, I am bothered. But we also have to acknowledge the effects of the pandemic in regards to studios and game development should be acknowledged, and we shouldn't just throw us under the bus and be like, oh, well, yes, we went through a pandemic, but that doesn't matter. I'm like, no. We have to be wise, we have to be fair, and we have to acknowledge that the pandemic has had an effect on the development of games. We also have to acknowledge the expectations are extremely high for this game, and people have very high expectations that this will be a great game. But I do also think it's fair to have a little bit of hope that, put a little bit of hope that 343 will deliver something good and enjoyable. And I think a lot of people will be very happy with the final product. And once these features come rolling out, I think everybody will be even more happy because now, well, they'll get co-op campaign, they'll get their Forged maps, they'll get a lot of features that people have been wanting. And who knows, there might be some new features added in that we're just not aware of, and everyone will be genuinely happy about it. But I do believe it's not fair to pass judgment until we've actually seen or have the final game in our hands. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, whether you're listening or watching this on YouTube, or hit me up on my social medias if you're listening to the audio version of the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. Let me know how you guys feel about the whole situation. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you guys so much for your time and your patience with me. I really, really do appreciate it. School is definitely starting to ramp up, and it's just very interesting this year, to say the least. But I'm excited. This is my last full year at tech, and I'm very excited to see how it plays out. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Please, guys, continue to take care of those around you. Continue to be kind, respectful. Continue to be making the best effort to understand where people are coming from. And as always, guys, don't do anything dumb. And I will see you guys next week. Love you guys. Bye.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.